Okay. Oh, good. Lots of people from the US, Eastern time zones, and oh, I see a lot of familiar names. This is really nice. Someone from Grenada, someone from Canada. Oh, good. Someone from Brazil. Good. It's so nice to see the range of places people come from to join us. So thank you. Thank you for making time on well, it's my Friday evening. Oh, so people from Australia, it's your morning. Good. Great. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for being here. And we really hope you've been enjoying International Nature Journaling Week so far, however you've been participating. We've really loved seeing what people have shared online. For those of you who have shared online, my name's Karina. You would have seen me in a few of the videos. I'm one of the volunteers that helps organize the week, along with Melinda Nakagawa, who you would have seen her video. Eve Moore helps out. We have all our wonderful teachers, and of course, our Beth and Burton, who dreamed this for all of us. Before we get started, I do want to just let you all know that this is volunteer run, but there are a few expenses. So if you've been enjoying the week and you have the means and can, we would love for you to give a small donation or as much as you can afford if you're able to. There's links on the website and in the newsletter, and we'll put one in the chat later as well. Okay, so I'm going to pass it over to Rebecca, but before I do, I want to tell you about my experience. I've had the opportunity to learn from Rebecca Rolnick several times. Rebecca's based in New York State near Syracuse.
Yep.
Yes, and which is just a few hours south of me. I'm in Canada. And I was really excited to hear that Rebecca would be presenting today because she has such an interesting way of looking at nature journaling and present such interesting ideas for us to explore. So I will pass it to you, Rebecca, and I'm really looking forward to this. Thank you.
Hi, thank you, Karina, and hello, everybody. Good evening if you're in the US with me. Good morning if you're in Australia. Yes, I'm Rebecca. I'm from Syracuse, New York, and I started teaching nature journaling online in 2020 during the COVID quarantines. And I especially like to focus on using words and storytelling in our nature journals, and on conservation and developing a deeper sense of place and community. And I also, where I'm from, as a land acknowledgement, this is also the ancestral lands of the Onondaga Nation of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and they are still around here today. Also, want to say Happy Pride Month, and today is day 6 of International Nature Journaling Week. Our theme for today is sensing the world around us. So today's session is going to be about using all of the senses that are available to us to learn more about the natural world. And I will be sharing a few ways that we can do that with a variety of our senses. Um, as I mentioned, where I am is the traditional lands of the Onondaga Nation, and something that the Haudenosaunee do to start all of their gatherings is they say the Thanksgiving address, or as they call it, the words that come before all else, giving thanks to all the different aspects of nature and coming together in bringing all of our minds together in a sense of right mind, so that we all are treating each other with respect and grateful to get to be in each other's presence. So I always like to start my classes by asking everybody, what is something in nature that you are thankful for today? And I would just invite everybody to put that into the chat. I'm really thankful for the rain that we had this morning and getting to hear the sound of the rain outside. I'm thankful for the wood thrush song that I got to hear on my walk this afternoon. And I'm thankful for the serviceberry tree in my front yard that the fruits will be ripe within a couple weeks. I'm thankful for the sunshine that has just started to shine, just come right into the angle, the shining right into my face, but I'm very thankful for it anyway. And I would love to see, Karina, would you be able to read some of what people are putting into the chat?
Definitely. Yeah. And I forgot to mention too, if people have questions throughout, just pop it in the chat. And when there's a moment, we can ask Rebecca. But lots of
Mhm.
people also enjoying birds all around the world. Someone had river otters, which are some of my
Ooh.
favorites. Oh, someone has said the softness of bog cotton. So someone's been out using their senses today. Um, Several people mentioning rain, and in some places it's badly needed. And people are thankful for the places that they have to go and explore. Oh, and someone mentioned cicadas and their sounds and how that's such a nice part of the summer. Yeah,
All right, thank you, Karina. Thank you, everybody, for putting in the chat, participating. So another question I have for you is, think about it for a minute. What sense do you use most often while you're nature journaling? So I invite everybody to either write a number in the chat or hold up some fingers. So one is sight, two is hearing, three is smell, four is taste, and five is touch. Which one do you think you use most often?
we have a lot of visual nature journalers coming in, but a few people using other ones, some people using their hearing as well. Oh, someone said smell. That's nice. Oh, touch. Nice. So definitely the majority is sight. And then some people do a mix.
Yeah, I think it's pretty expected. I think a lot of people tend to focus on sight. And then, what is a sense that you would like to try using more while nature journaling? Again, one is sight, two is hearing, three is smell, four is taste, and five is touch.
Interesting. So I wondered if people would say taste. I think a couple of people have. A lot of people are saying smell. Um, and then, a mix of the others, hearing, touch. Not a lot, not tons of people saying taste. It probably depends where you live and what the plants are.
Yeah, so there's
This is sorry, just gonna say Kiki just asked a great question, touch, but how would I document that? You're probably gonna get to that, eh, Rebecca?
um yeah, a little bit. That's a good question. I think we can come back to that in a little bit. So thank you for asking questions. Everybody keep asking more questions if you have them. Um, okay. So yeah, there's a variety of senses that we can all explore using. And so we all sense the world differently. When I say using all of your senses, what I mean is all of the senses that are available to you. And so, why do we even have senses in the first place? We have senses because that's how we have evolved to take in information about the world around us so that we can use that information to make decisions and to act in ways that will help us to survive. And the reason that humans can, see in color or hear the particular range of sounds that we can hear is because these are the senses that were best at helping our ancestors to survive in a particular ecological context. But within the range of senses that humans can have, we all have different bodies, we all have different brains. Um, we all pay attention to different things. There are different things that we like to notice or that might stick out to me versus what sticks out to you. The way we pay attention to those things is different. The senses that we have are different. And then once our body takes in sensory information, the way our brain processes those senses are different. Like, so just as an example, I'm neurodivergent. I tend to experience sensory overload pretty easily from if there's a lot of noise or textures or lights, which sometimes can be pretty challenging. But it also means sometimes I notice things that other people wouldn't notice. So time in nature is a really great way for me to recharge. But some people are the opposite, are get understimulated and are sensory seeking. And nature is also really great for that too, because there are so many multi-sensory experiences that you can have. There are so many ways that you can move your body in nature. And so nature is also a really great way to get that extra stimulation that some people need. Some people are top down versus down up sensory processing. So some people look at the big picture first, get a big understanding of what's going on, and only then notice all the different details. Whereas some people notice all the little details first and then put it together into a bigger picture. And this reminds me also of the zoom in and zoom out nature journaling technique. So I think with nature journaling, we can appreciate what we naturally do well and how our senses work, but we can also use nature journaling techniques to try to, train ourselves in ways of sensing that might not come as naturally to us. Um, and this is all, and we can also think about how different types of creatures sense the world in a way that's different from us. Um, I work at a library as my day job, so I've got a couple book recommendations throughout here. I know nature journalists tend to also be book lovers. I cataloged a new book we got the other day called A Sky That Sings. That's about a blind girl who loves birds and goes on walks to, she doesn't call it bird watching, she calls it bird listening. Um, or I still haven't read it, but I've been meaning to read the book An Immense World by Ed Young, which is all about how different animals sense the world around them, different types of hearing, seeing, etc. That different animals also have different types of senses, and we're just all part of that biodiversity. Um, and because we all sense the world a bit differently, we learn the most when we get to learn from each other's experience and perception and things that we didn't notice when we share our nature stories together. And our theme for this week is conversations with nature. So whether or not you identify as neurodivergent, all of our brains are a little bit different. And so I would also like to invite everybody to just take a moment to reflect on that. And if you're comfortable sharing, put something into the chat about how you sense the world with your senses. But also no pressure to share if that's not something that's comfortable for you to share.
Maybe while people think about this and put things in the chat, I can share something that I experienced with my senses today. I went on my paddleboard. I like to nature journal from my paddleboard, and I went out on the lake,
Mhm.
which is colder than the air. And this kind of answers Kiki's question too. I really felt the air temperature and the stillness. And so I wrote it in my nature journal, and I also tried to make I did a little landscape in my nature journal of what I was seeing, and I tried to make it calm and still and use cool colors because that's what I was feeling. So that's one way to do it. I'm not seeing anyone else put anything in about how they document their senses or experience them. But if they do, I'll let you know. And
Yeah, right.
I'll yeah, I'll just say um Rebecca, you and I were talking before we started, and Ed Young was actually on the radio today on a call-in that I called into
Oh, no
about
way.
birding. Yeah, he's like I would look him up on podcasts or anything. His way of talking about nature is incredible.
Yeah. Well, if anyone wants to share on that question I asked another time, this can be an ongoing conversation too. Um, okay, so as I mentioned, oh, other thing I want to talk about is how senses, having multisensory experiences in nature is also really important as a helping to feel grounded. Um, Sensory integration is like the basis of emotional regulation, basically how we feel happy. This is something I learned from a TED Talk from John Young. So sensory storytelling, as I was talking about, when we share our stories of like what we observed or what happened to us in nature, we can learn most when we share it with each other because we all notice different things. And those stories are most powerful when we put all of those senses into the story. So some people say that telling a story is like painting a picture, but I think it's not. Telling a story, some people say, is like opening a door into a place that you can step inside. And the way you do that is by including all of your senses. It's not just a static thing that you look at, it's alive. So I have one more question. Have you ever gone on a walk in nature and when you come back, your friend asks you, what did you see? So I just want to raise your hand if somebody's ever asked you that question, or if you've ever asked somebody else that question. So today, what we're going to explore is that it's more than just seeing. Okay, so now I'm going to go through our main five senses and just share some ideas. For sight, I'm not going to spend too much time on this because I think this is the one that gets by far the most attention in the nature journaling community and in the art community. One idea that I have to share with you that is not as well known is you can use your owl eyes. Or we tend to focus, have a very hard focus on a small area in front of us for a lot of our days if we're reading or looking at a computer or drawing. But I invite you to try using your owl eyes or a more soft, wide angle vision, looking more into the distance. Not focusing on a particular spot, but letting everything in front of you. Um, and obviously, this is for if you can see. Um, you can try also kind of putting up your fingers, wiggling them around, and see how far you can move your hands away that you can still see them in your peripheral vision. That's something that you can practice. A lot of animals have that more wide angle vision. It's better for sensing movement, which is important if need to look out for predators. Um, and that is something that you can try with sight. Okay, now for touch, I actually think about this all the time because a few years ago in the Facebook group for International Nature Journaling Week, I remembered somebody asked a question and that really stuck with me. And they asked, is it okay to touch things in nature? Um, and I think sometimes people can be so disconnected to nature to even wonder if it's okay to touch. Or, with things like leave no trace, sometimes it's a little bit like, hands off. We don't want to disturb anything. We don't want to get hurt ourselves. And there are some cases where you don't want to touch things. But nature is not as fragile as we think, and neither are we. So if this is something that you're concerned about, it's good to start by learning some of the things that can hurt you if you touch them. Um, like for where I live, one of the big hazards is poison ivy. You don't want to touch poison ivy. And there might be some things that do need to be a little bit more protected or might be more vulnerable for being touched, like some endangered plant species. And like one I think I would probably try to avoid touching is trillium flower, where I live. That's an endangered flower species. And that doesn't that's not necessarily always the case. There may be endangered species that are just fine to touch. Um, but just to getting to know what the more vulnerable things are and what are the things that you can hurt you. Aside from, and it depends on where you live too. Some places have more hazards than others. But once you learn those main things, you don't really need to be so afraid. Everything else, um, you can pretty much touch without being afraid once you've learned the key things. Um, so you can also just get started with sense of touch by thinking like, what does the air feel like around you right now? What is the temperature like? Is there any movement? What does the ground underneath you feel like, or where you're sitting? What's that pressure feel like? Um, do you have any internal bodily sensations or interoception? Um, and along with owl eyes, you can also try using your raccoon fingers. Um, Try feeling very lightly something that's around you right now. Really bring your full attention to it. Pretend that you've never experienced this before. How would you describe what it feels like? And you can write that down in your nature journal. And And another one for touch that I really enjoy is there's a game called Meet a Tree. So you need to get a partner and close your eyes or some kind of blindfold. And your partner spins you around several times so you get disoriented and you don't know what direction you're facing. And then they will lead you to a tree. And you only using your sense of touch, you kind of feel the tree, get to know it, learn what's unique about this exact tree. And then your partner leads you away from the tree, and then you're unblindfolded and you have to find which tree was yours. So that's a really fun game that you can play that really helps to hone your sense of touch and your other senses aside from sight. And then you can write about that experience in your nature journal too. Okay, scent is another one that doesn't get utilized quite as much. Our language doesn't have a lot of words to describe scent, so it's harder to talk about. I'm curious if that's the case in other languages. Um, there's another book that I want to read. It's new from this year, last year, called The Forgotten Scents, The New Science of Smell and the Extraordinary Power of the Nose. So you can put that also on your reading list if you're interested in learning more about scent. Um, we can read it together. And something I learned a while ago is that really surprised me is that humans actually do have the ability to track by scent. We're not as good at it as, say, a dog, but we actually are as good at using our sense of smell as a lot of other mammals that we might not expect. But we don't do this much in modern society, so we're out of practice. But it is a skill that we can develop. Um, and I believe also for people who have lost their sense of smell from COVID can also, to an extent, practice that a bit. Um, so in UC Berkeley in 2006, they did a study where they had people, they put a line of a chocolate scent in the grass, and they had people blindfolded and try to follow it just by their sense of smell. And they actually could do it. And they got better at it with practice. So you can see a picture here. The pink line is showing the white line is showing where the scent trail was led, and the pink line is showing where the people went. Something that I've been wanting to try is to do like a blindfold like challenge of smelling all of the cooking spices in the kitchen and training myself to identify them just by scent. Um, that's something I would like to try. Um, Another thing that you can do is making potions like you might have done when you were a kid, finding things around you in nature that smell a certain way, mixing them all up. This picture is from a class that I taught that where we were doing that. That was a couple years ago. We were actually on the news, and what we were doing that day in the nature class happened to be making potions. We had different kinds of leaves and different things from nature. Um, so yeah, and as I was saying, there is a lack of scent related words, but I know we had a program on language making nature the other day, so maybe we can make some more scent related words.
And
And
Rebecca, I'll just let
yeah,
you know, some people in the chat were talking about how their dog kind of tunes them into scents and sounds when they're walking their dog because their dog notices and then they notice too, or they try to notice.
yeah, that's something I was thinking about talking about as well, because as humans all have different sensory perceptions, and different animals too. Like we can learn, it kind of expands the access of sensory perception we have awareness of if you go with a dog, or if you have an adventure cat, or some kind of other animal that you can go out with into nature. Some people have horses, and what they pay attention to, it brings your attention to those things as well. And I think that is a big part of like kind of what humans have benefited from having, domestic animals over human history. And also, if you pay attention to what wild animals are paying attention to, that can help key you into the things that are going on, into the sensory perceptions that wild animals have around you. So yeah, that's a really great point. Um, Another thing that you can do to develop a sense of scent and taste is looking at some of these flavor wheels and aroma wheels from different connoisseurs of things like coffee or wine. Um, like, for example, I don't usually drink coffee, but one of my friends was doing a tasting recently. And so my first thought was, it tastes bitter. It tastes bitter and it smells kind of nice. And I said, okay, I'm going to challenge myself to see if I can get a little bit more specific than that and really pay attention to what I think it smells like and tastes like. And they also have these wheels for things like maple syrup I saw online, other types of foods. So these can be great ways to practice as well. Okay, and taste. Um, a lot of taste is smell, which I just talked about. Um, it makes me think a lot about also um, the Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh wrote about like the concept of, tasting an apple or a fruit is not the same thing as the actual experience of tasting it. So it's really is a form of mindfulness. Um, and cooking is all about developing an awareness of different flavors. Um, you can forage for foods if you learn how. You can grow foods in your garden. That's all part of nature. I think that food from nature is a really powerful way of connecting to nature because it is something that has such an immediate effect on your survival that you really get the sense of like, I'm my survival is being supported by the land right here. Um, and you can, again, write about that in your nature journal. Um, and you can even just taste the air around you. You try it in different places at different times, different weathers. Can you taste any or smell any differences in the air? Um, and so for foraging, um, it is really important to be safe. So I just want to share there in the book Nature's Garden by Samuel Thayer, he writes about 5 steps to positively identifying a plant. So the first is tentative identification. When you think, okay, I think this is what it is. It pretty much looks like that. And a lot of people stop there. But it's important to go further before you try eating anything. The second one is the second step is reference comparison, really going in detail through your book or reference materials. What are the specific characteristics of the plant and making sure that they're the same. But once you've done that, cross-reference it with other sources of information, at least do a triple check with like, say, three different books and make sure that it's all consistent and it all is lining up. But then you want to get to know it over time. Doing a specimen search where you're creating like a search image in your brain until you get to the point where you can almost instantly have a sense of recognition of this plant among different stages, different forms. Like you're really getting to know it. And this could take a half hour or it could take 6 months, but keep at it until that's you're at that level of familiarity. And finally is what he calls contradictory confidence. So that even if somebody else says that it's wrong, you absolutely know that it's correct. He gives an example of if something at the grocery store had a picture of banana and it was mislabeled and said grapes, you would know that that was a banana and not grapes. And if you took it to the grocery store person and they said, no, it's grapes because that's what it says here, you would know that that source of information was incorrect. So, um, eating foods from nature is something that we can all do, but we just need to make sure that we're going about it in a safe way. But again, once we have the proper information, it's not something that we need to be scared of. And that allows us to experience this whole other sense in nature that we might not get to use as often and can be delicious. Okay, and now is sound. And I want to focus on talking about birdsong today. Um, I want to share a Mary Oliver poem that I just recently read for the first time and loved and seemed perfect for this. Um, It's called Meadowlark Sings and I Greet Him in Return. Meadowlark, when you sing, it's as if you lay your yellow breast upon mine and say, hello, hello, are we not of one family in our delight of life? You sing, I listen. Both are necessary. If the world is to continue going around, night heavy, then light laden, though not everyone knows this, or at least not yet, or perhaps has forgotten it in the torn fields and the terrible debris of progress. And what I love about that, as we're talking about conversations with nature this week, is how it really emphasizes that it is the listening and the singing are both key parts of the conversation, um, both for our relationship with nature and our relationships with each other. Um, And sometimes there are things that we want to do and take action to protect the natural world. But sometimes also just that listening is really important. Or if there's a person we know who wants to have a chance to express themselves, being the person who can just be there and listen and support that is also really important. Um, And so now I would like us to practice recording some bird songs in our nature journal. I am also a mentor for the American Birding Association's Young Birder program for their field notebook module. Um, so when one of the most common pieces of feedback that I give to the kids doing the program is that they it would be good if they include more just about bird vocalizations in their field notebooks about birds. Um, so I am going to play some bird songs for us. Just a moment while I'm pulling that up. Um, so I just read the poem about the meadowlark, and now let's listen. So first, as a first step, just close your eyes and listen with your full attention. And well, let me make sure I'm still sharing sound because that's important. Okay. Let me know if you can hear this. Okay.
Rebecca, it sang once and then it stopped. So,
Yeah, it's supposed to keep going.
yeah, I should say he, not it.
Oh, I meant yes. Key pronouns are great for using nature. In this case, I meant it just as the sound recording is supposed to be going.
Oh, I
That's
said it. Yeah.
oh, gotcha.
Yeah, no, I wasn't correcting you. Let's see.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So hope everybody is listening. Um, I also wanted to say if you like using the Merlin Bird app, that is a really great tool for listening, learning the bird songs. I've been using Merlin all the time. Raise your hand if you like using Merlin. Yeah, so it's a really amazing tool, and it's amazing that we have that now. But um, we didn't always have that, and it identifies things for you. But if you really want to learn it at a deeper level, really get to know that bird song, and if you want to be able to identify it by yourself later, there are some more things that you can do. So we tried just closing our eyes, giving our full attention and listening. Now I'm going to play it again and think, what words might you use to describe this song? So some words that you could use to describe bird songs might be, is it melodic or is it buzzy or nasally? Is it harsh or clear? Piercing? Is it musical? Fast and energetic? Bouncy? Is it slow and relaxed? Is it loud or quiet? Does the volume change or is it pretty consistent? So I'm gonna play it again. Just think what words you might use to describe this song. And you can write those down in your nature journal. And it should be playing. Let's try this one. Yeah, and would anybody like to share what words you described it as? You maybe put it in the chat.
Yeah, and we already had someone describe it as musical and clear, yodeling, melodic trilling, elastic, shrill, piercing, and someone is noting that they're also hearing birds in their own yard, insistent, short musical trill, conversational. Oh, good. And there were questions in the chat about whether Merlin is available in Australia, and it looks like it is, so that's really good. Joyful, clear, high-pitched, musical, repetitive, joyful and hopeful. Sweet, melodic, joyful. Yes. Oh, slow and relaxed. Oh, that's interesting. Cheryl posted one I think it's called a mnemonic. Um,
Mnemonic.
Yeah, I see you. Oh, that's a good one. Some of them aren't great. That's a really good one.
I see you.
Yeah.
I like that. I didn't know that one.
No, me neither. And it's accurate. Thank you,
Yeah.
Cheryl.
Okay, so I'm gonna play it again this time. Try conducting it with your hands. You can imagine the higher is higher pitch, lower is lower pitch, and conducting the different rhythms that you hear and however you want to represent that with your hands. Okay. Now this time, listen and try to imitate the song. This is it can feel silly, but this can be a really powerful way of learning it, which is something that I say all the time when I lead bird walks. Um, but something that occurred to me while I was prepping for this is that it also is a lot like active listening. Again, with the theme of conversations, it's like um, when you're doing active listening to a person you're talking to, that can mean that you are listening well enough that you can repeat back to a person what they said and that you understand. So if the bird is singing and then you can repeat what they said, it's kind of the same idea. Um, so I will play it again. Try to mimic the song as best as you can. Okay. And do we have any brave participants who would be willing to unmute and share the sound, your best meadow lark?
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
very nice whistle, Cheryl. Anybody else? All right. If not, that's okay. But you can try this in the privacy of your own home. I think when you get to the point of being able to make the sound yourself, that can be when that it sinks in. That's a song that you really know, instead of Merlin just identifying it and then later you go about and you can't remember what it sounded like or what key sounded like. Okay, so you can listen to the song itself, but you can also listen to the space between the song. You can count how many seconds long the song is. You can count how many seconds in between when the song is repeated. Um, and a great way that you can put it in your nature journal, aside from writing words that describe it, you can draw an axis of where you've got pitch going high to low pitch, and then time is going across the bottom. And you can sketch out what that bird song would look like. So this is kind of like a sonogram for bird recordings, but just a very, very simplified version. Like if you go, for example, to the Macaulay Library, which is where these sound recordings are from, you can see this that. Um, so I'm gonna play it again, and this time transcribe into your nature journal what that might look like. This is also a lot like musical notation if you know how to read music. You can even incorporate some of that if that's something that you know. Like sometimes if it's a certain rhythm, sometimes I'll even draw, for example, eighth notes or 16th notes or the rest. Or if there's a part of a song that's especially strong, I might draw an accent over it, or I might draw a staccato or a legato. Um, if it's very, very short or very smooth. Um, and if that's not something that you're familiar with, you can just try drawing lines that represent the length of the song and going up and down for the pitch. So I'm going to play it one more time. So this really forces you to think about how the pitches are relative to each other. The next note after, was that higher or lower? And we might all hear these in slightly different ways. Again, birds can probably themselves hear it in much more detail than we can. Um, there may be more notes and variations that it sounds simpler to us. This is what I drew. Um, it's that kind of uh, dee 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 dee. Kind of the second note is kind of in two parts, so it went up and down, and then the next one I could kind of hear a middle pitch just for a second, and then I drew this as an accent because I thought this one was just a little bit more um, pronounced as a sound. So that's how I represented what I heard. Um, is there anybody else who would like to share what you drew? I see Cheryl again. I'll pin you. Yeah, so um I you can unmute if you like.
At the beginning, I felt like this was the way to do it. And then as time went on, I started adding spaces, the pause to do this. And then when you talked about an accent, I feel like the accent was on the beginning of the first CU.
Mhm.
See, so that's my vision of it.
Okay, yeah, I can see how you got the flat line showing the snow, and then you draw kind of like those uh almost reverse triangles, like showing the slope, showing that it goes up and comes back down. That's interesting. You put an accent on the second piece as well. So I'm curious if other people also heard that or if other people heard it differently. So thank you for sharing, Cheryl. Anybody else before we finish up this section?
I have mine on screen.
Mhm.
The first time I listened to it, I thought that maybe that first note kind of decreases in pitch. Upon hearing it again, I don't think that's true, but I still like whenever I think of that sound, I think I'll still think of that first one as having a slight down pitch. And then I have these two, you had yours connected. I felt like they were pretty separate. And then this kind of like trilling downwards, I kind of put some plateaus there, but I feel like it's one little squiggly down line. So that's how I drew
Yeah,
mine.
yeah, I like how you use the kind of squiggly line to show sort of more of a trilling.
Yeah, and I did a second version down here because I was like, well, maybe it's not actually going down, but I wanted to record how I feel about it. So I made it kind of shorter and downward. And then the second time I also just did staccato downwards instead of kind of connecting that.
Well, thank you for sharing.
Yeah, thank you.
And nice to see you, Sydney, or to hear you. Okay. Last call, anybody else? Okay. And yeah, so all of those steps that we just did, you can go a lot more in depth with listening and getting to know the bird song. Um, we did closing our eyes and listening, describing it with words, conducting it with our hands, imitating the song, and writing it, transcribing it on our paper. And I'm going to go back to the slideshow to finish us up.
Sorry, I just messed something up. I was trying to help you, but I think I did the opposite.
Oh, what happened?
Oh, it's working now. But I want to
Oh,
make sure that you are also pinned in the recording.
mm-hmm.
Um,
Oh,
no, I think you're good. Okay, and Bethan can fix what I broke. Sorry.
okay. Well, everything seems good from my end. So just to recap, our workshop today, we talked about the diversity in all of our sensory perceptions, how having a multisensory experiences helps us with emotional regulation and a sense of grounding. Um, some of the activities and things to try, you can try doing owl eyes, meeting a tree, doing scent tracking, which was done in a study, but some people do as an activity. If you have something very smelly, you can try making a scent trail to follow. Making potions, which is especially fun with kids, but these things can be for any age. We're never too old to have fun. You can try practicing your sense of smell, using flavor wheels to become a connoisseur of various types of food and drink. Um, you can explore nature through foraging, gardening, and cooking. You can record all of these experiences in your nature journal. You can do mimicking and transcribing bird song like you just did. So, oh, by the way, also, if you'd like, I send letters over email about nature connection, nature journaling, restoring our relationship with nature, with conservation. And I have some things that you can get if you subscribe also, um, including something I made for a previous year of International Nature Journaling Week on using words in our nature journal. So I will just put that in the chat in case anybody would like that, but no pressure. And whoops. And so the next time your friend comes back from a walk in the woods, don't just ask them, what did you see? Also ask, what did you hear, smell, taste, and touch? And you can get access to this whole world that they experienced. And ask other people to do the same for you. And so finally, I'd just like to know, do you have any questions? What's an idea that you learned or something you gained perspective on? What are you going to take away from this workshop today? What are you going to take with you? What's something that I mentioned today that you'd like to try? And how do you use all of your senses in nature? So if you have any questions or comments on any of these, feel free to take a minute to reflect, put something in the chat. You can write down in your nature journal something that you want to remember or something that you want to try, or raise your hand, and I am happy to do my best to answer any questions that you might have.
We have a lot of things coming in on the chat. First of all, lots of thanks for you. Everyone appreciated this so much. Oh my gosh, I can't even keep up. People like the conducting exercise, the scent wheel, writing out bird songs, tracking something by scent. Yeah, I kind of want to do that chocolate one too. Um, Mimicking the bird song. Um, yeah, people really appreciated getting to know birdsong more. Yeah, and the scent wheel. And earlier in the chat, there was a conversation about how having a wheel of words is really helpful because they exist for emotions too. So having
Yeah.
a scent one, yeah, that would be fun. And people are knowing they'll become more aware. Um, Everyone thinks you're amazing, just like I do. So that's really good. Oh, someone's going to start smelling more and even tasting a few leaves. That's brave. That's good though, because it was really nice you gave those tips to do so safely. That's really good. Yeah, people felt
Yeah.
their senses really opened,
As
learning that
always,
people.
do at your own risk, but there are ways to learn how to do it safely.
Let's just
Yeah.
see. Oh yeah, people feel more confident about sensory awareness and using senses to choose a nature journaling subject, which is
Hmm.
interesting. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to hear that you have all gotten so much out of this session. Really thankful that you're all here and thankful to be here today. Um,
Oh, if you have a moment, we're almost at the hour, so thank you so much for this. This has been such a full and rich session. But if you have another minute, um, people are asking if they can see a few more pages of your nature journal. Is that possible, or is that going to be tricky?
yeah, sure. Let's
Great,
see,
thank
what have
you.
I got recently? This is just gonna be whatever I happen to do relatively recently. Um, but no, like,
Rebecca, maybe you could unshare your screen and then just hold
oh
up.
yeah. So just as an example of um yesterday I was birding in my backyard and I have a list here of all the birds that I saw. The birds each have a 4-letter code and I wrote how many I saw. And then this is one that I just did a little like sketch of showing the bird song. Here's another one that I did. I think this one might be a chestnut-sided warbler because it goes like tweet 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 tweet. There was a bat in my backyard, in the pool umbrella. So from a safe distance, I was able to sketch. And um, I had a really fun one. We were talking about poetry the other day and metaphors and similes. So I thought that the columbine flower just before he opens up looks like an octopus or a squid upside down. Bobbing along on the currents of the wind, tentacles grasping. So this is not stuff that necessarily relates to what I just taught, but just some things from my nature journal. Oh, a fun one. There was a little moth on the tree, and I drew this little piece of the bark how it looked, and um, kind of showing the texture of the tree. And this moth is so still, blending in with the tree. And I came back a couple hours later and I thought, oh, the moth hasn't moved at all. He's still in the exact same spot. But because I had recorded this little piece of bark, was able to notice the change that the moth was actually up here. So it looked like he hadn't moved at all, but actually did move a little bit. Um, let's see. I'm just gonna flip through. Do I have anything else particularly to show? I think I do fall in the trap of focusing most on sight, to be honest. But there are it is really fun and important to include all of our senses, um, and texture. Like I didn't put this in my nature journal, but I was also just thinking about like sense of touch. There was a milkweed plant and another plant in my front yard, and I was noticing a day or two ago how when I touched them, even something that I might have drawn, like the pattern of the veins on the leaf, was so much more obvious from touching it that or like one, like I might have just drawn it. It's like, okay, it's a green leaf. But one, I realized like, oh, this is such a tough and firm leaf texture. And the other one, the milkweed is so soft and velvety. And then one, the pattern of veins on the underside was kind of like branching out in like branches coming off of the branches. Um, and I could like really feel the texture of that versus the milkweed when I was touching the bottom, the leaves, it's more of like it comes out and then like on either side, like like that. Um, and I don't think it would have been as obvious or noticeable if I hadn't been touching the leaves. And then that made me even wonder, like, why do these different leaves have different patterns of how their veins look? Um, why is one more branching out? Why is one more just straight lines across? And like, what's the evolutionary history of that? Or was there a particular purpose to that? Um, there's Oh, that reminds me, I was also thinking about mentioning I don't remember the full story, but there was this really famous evolutionary biologist who was blind, who was able to study a lot of like fossils and shells and things just by touching them, and was able to notice a lot of like make a lot of connections about evolutionary history that other people hadn't made, because they were only looking at the things. Um, and I don't remember the full story, but that's something I remember learning about in my evolution class in college. So that's another cool thing to learn about.
Thanks so much for sharing, Rebecca. Sharing your pages and your observations, and for today's session. That was fun. I didn't write anything down because I was paying attention, but I could see other people scribbling away. So I think people took a lot away from this, and we really appreciate you doing this.
Yeah, thank you again so much for having me, and all of you for coming. And um, yeah, I can still stick around for if anybody has any final questions. Otherwise, thank you all so much again, and I hope everyone enjoys the last day of International Nature Journaling Week.
Rebecca, thank you so much. It's been beautiful to be here in conversation with you, and you always bring so much thoughtfulness and depth to your classes. So thank you so much for sharing that with us again today. Thank you everyone for being here.
Thank you. Oh, someone just asked, where do I find four-letter bird codes? That's the American Birding Association, I believe, has the list of them. Um, hmm, the if you search four-letter bird codes for your region of the world, you should definitely find something. That can be a little handy tool. Um, Yeah, also feel free if you sign up for my emails, or you can go to my website. Definitely feel free also to email me anytime if you have more questions. All right. Thank you.
Thank you everyone. Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, Karina. Take good care.